So you're gonna rob me?
Had I taken those words at face value, I would have probably laughed out loud. At the very least, LOL'd. After all, our traditional form of communication for the past 8 years has been just that. Messenger, email, social networks before MySpace and Facebook. But he was right there, and everything about him, his tone, his taut muscles, that look in his eye, told me he was quite serious. Billy Bongos had been through a lot before he ended up there in his state of uncomfortness, despite being on my plush couch in my living room, his head bereft of that famous traveler's hat he was so proud of wearing. I had read and heard the horror stories from him. Katrina, that mess out on the bayou, where for a brief moment I did not get those ones and O's on a pixel screen. I had no idea where that kid was. He made it through, although a changed man. How about the Alaskan cruise ship sinking in the sea? He had survived that one too. And yet, not even a few days ago, robbed of 84 hits from somebody that he spoke to face all the time. And here he was, all his belongings, right there on my couch, accusing me of the very same thing that I had a hint to be worried about myself. With that thought, I came up with my reply.
Are you gonna rob me?
The sirens of Midtown did not help the situation. Neither did a long, hidden conversation I had on the phone with the one woman at the time who happily gave her body to me whenever chance we had. The opposite sex can complicate friendships of the same. No matter how ridiculous the scenario, Bongos had his own way to enrich the moment.
Well, do you have a gun? Do you have any weapons?
You know what? We all need a Billy Bongos. Well, that evening could have been as uneventful as ever, but not when Bongos shows up. Not when we eat the fungi chocolates and drink the lemon shots. Reviving that ritual that we had met doing so often so long ago, back when things were more optimistic. While we did try to relive that moment, we could tell something was different. Perhaps we were too young and dumb back then. Maybe we had been too burdened by the 7 years of Bush and the NSA creeping into that digital life of ours that we felt so comfortable communicating in, leaving us as uncomfortable as we were right then and there. Well, Bongos had his own way to address the situation.
It is what it is.
If there's one thing about Midtown, Kansas City, it can be a pedestrian's paradise, except for after a fresh ice and snowfall. Then you're stuck to carefully treading along the sidewalks, or, as in the merriment of Bongos and I, skipping through the middle of the street, finding treads of bare road that the cars had provided. Bongos now had his favorite traveler's hat on, and I were well beyond our conflict. We had found a peace that so many men need to find these days. Perhaps it should be pointed that a display of some culinary knives the evening before had aided in the peace talks. It was at this point that a work-motivated motorist decided not to appreciate our pedestrianism and came screeching around the corner, only to cut to the left just at the right moment and share the ghastly noise of his horn with us. To which Bongos and I both found a reply. Suddenly, work was not as important as confrontation. I, having my wits about me, decided to share this suggestion with Mr. Bongos, seeing as how we were so close to my apartment. Bongos! I assure you I have no weapons, but I am not speaking on behalf of this citizen. Let's go. We had made it to the door and shut it locked with less than a minute to spare. The grumbles and the moans of this new pedestrian we created got muffled behind the door. It was time to get a beer. The roommate had been home at this point, not fully aware of the craziness that occurred in the lava lamp of that living room just the night before, and not quite fully aware of what had just happened outside. He had made a suggestion. How about the Tasteless Tavern? Ah, the Tasteless Tavern. What a dive. This cave in the middle of a sunny block. So many hipsters in the neighborhood had loved it. And they had cheap beer. So why not? In walks me, the roomie, and Bongos, his hat on his head. There was some interesting music coming from some vinyl. Always a good sign. And Bongos and I have this natural instinct to sort of place ourselves right next to anything that looks like a record, especially a real one. The barkeep walks up.
People are in a hurry.
Can I get you, bud?
I'll take a PBR.
I gotta tell you, one of the times I used to practice. Well, I did it twice. How about you guys? I didn't know who was gonna answer. I see some ID.
We all know dear friends like Billy Bongos don't have things like federal identification. If they did, they would not be as dear to our hearts as this one in question.
I didn't bring it with me. I'm not gonna have anything to drink.
Dude, you gotta have ID to be in a bar, man. You gotta go. Seriously, you gotta go, man.
Alright.
Hit the bricks, come on.
In fact, the only identification that Bongos had was the hat upon his head, and it was probably for that we were excommunicated from this hipster paradise. Oh well. Turns out I didn't really need a $5 PBR that bad, but I could use another walk with Bongos. The roommate, having already ordered, decided to stick around and attempted a conversation with the barkeep.
So, do you suppose you decide what sorts of characters, card or not card in this place?
I'm sorry I kicked your friends out. It's just, earlier tonight, I'm on my way into work. Around the corner here, there's these two dudes just dancing around in the middle of the street like a couple drunk morons. And I hate driving in the snow, you know? But I had to swerve and miss them and everything. And one of the guys was wearing this traveler's hat. And I swear it was just like the one that guy was wearing. And I don't know, man. I just had to calm myself down, you know? I always wanted a hat like that.